So there became in the world this thing called Avas Chinam. Shiva was very much against that. He said there's nothing for Chinam. Nothing is Chinam. Chinam means like this. The answer is nothing is Chinam. And I believe perhaps he's relating to that here. That everything has to be done with a cheshbon, and everything has to be done with thought, and everything has to be done with preparation and hisbonenus in order to do it properly. And I think he's going to talk about that here. So anyway, let's just read through quickly. It's an introduction. Orli Yom Beis Vayigash, Acharon Shel Chanukah, Libni Yikari, Nunza and Ner Yoyer, Nachum Zev, Ner Yoyer. He's writing to his son Nachum Zev. Keor Shiva Sayim Tiel. He gives him a blessing, a lot of blessings. Be'or liyom heya avar ani im anshe shlomenu somachnu tehila b'simchas nes Chanukah. Last week we had a great simcha of Nes Chanukah. Pirsumei Nisa adif. Pirsumei Nisa is a great thing. Im amarti levayer al hagilion es advarim kotzar. If I wanted to write down everything I said, it wouldn't be possible. Kotzar hagilion. There's no room on the page to write it. Afterward on Shabbos Miketz, im oimar l'ta'er lecha es goydel espailus. If I'll write to you about describing for you the great wonder and the great hispilus, however you want to translate hispilus, shahayali beharos asher hayali, the parsha zu. I personally was very, very uplifted and inspired from the words that I said on the parsha. V'chashavti es otzem tuvo yisborach b'matnas chinam, and I thought about the great goodness that Hashem has given us b'matnas chinam with that is matnas chinam. That's not avas chinam. That's matnas chinam. That's a gift, total gift from Hashem's side, which is, one moment. The great gift that Hashem gave us, 100% gift by giving us the Torah. Kol mile demeitav medushan be'oineg niska. All of the words are beautiful words. Medushan are sweetened be'oneg niska, with great oneg. Ein hapeh yochol ledaber. The mouth cannot describe. And the ear cannot hear. We cannot conceive of the greatness of the gift of Hashem in the Torah that He gave us for free, for nothing, without us deserving anything. Total gift from Hashem. Mamash im am medushnei oneg. We are called am medushnei oneg. We're sweetened with the oneg of the Torah. Gam lefi hergeshi adala. Even according to my weak hergish feeling, Ein bekochi lalos ala gilion, I am not able to write everything. Masher rachash libi az, that which my heart felt then. Mitain v'hayali tamid came. Who alavai Hashem will give me that it will always be like that. That my feelings of Torah will be greater than I can express. Azeda. Then I'll know that I'm alive. Esmach ato bezichri, I will rejoice now in my remembering. Simchasi, my joy. Shahayali az. Apparently, he got together. They were at Hanukkah time and the Shabbos after, and we can't imagine what it was like. He says for him it was greater than he could describe. So it must have been pretty great. V'hinei nisames etzli, kamo chai, it has become evident to me, true to me, ki midas. Now he's getting to his point. I don't know how he connected this to that Shabbos, but he said, ki midas noise ba'oil im chavero, mamash hu kinyan shahayali az. that midah of noise ba'olim chavero, excuse me, kinyan ha-Torah ba'oifen she'achshov ki mi she'ein lo koyach laredis la'omka shel halacha i-efshar b'shum ofen ba'olam she'yeh lo koyach lios noise ba'olim chavero. This is what I mentioned before. Sinas chinam, avas chinam. No, we just love everybody. He said no. The main, as he's going to explain, there's 48 kinyanim of the Torah, right? Pirkei Avos, chapter 6. One of them is noise ba'olim chavero. What does that mean? Carry the yoke with your friend. Friend has a burden, carry the burden with him. That's one of the kinyanim of Torah. If a person doesn't laredis la'omka shel halacha, if he doesn't go into the depths of halacha. Now we're not talking here about feelings anymore. We're not talking about feelings, I want to do chesed, I want to help my friend. If you don't go into the depth of what is actually going on in the midst of nosei ba'olim chavero, yefshar b'shum ofen ba'olam. It's impossible in any way that he, shielo koyach lios nosei ba'olim chavero, that he will have the ability to carry the yoke with his friend. Wow. It's not simply, oh, come on, I want to help you out. No, it's a mitzvah of noisable. It's one of the kinyanim of Torah. It must be one of the greatest things in the world. As he also explains, it's one of the only ones here which deals with the zulat. It's, the other 48 are very much internal things, how I have to feel. But this one deals with your friend. And impossible to know how to do this Pa'ula of Noseh Ba'olim Chavero properly unless you have introspection and preparation, and as he says later, Shimush Chachamim. It's not simply, oh, come on, I want to help you. It's deeper than that. That's true. If you do that, that's probably what a lot of us do. If you like helping, but that's not Noseh Ba'olim Chavero. It needs to go into the Omka Shel Halacha. Ulefi matzavi hadal, according to my poor situation, esmach bechelki shenisgal li soid hazeh shelo lechinam. I'm happy with my portion that this nisgal li soid hazeh shelo lechinam. This sod, secret, was revealed to me, not for nothing. Shahad Torah niknes bahem. The Torah is acquired with 48 ways. Pirkei Avos Vav. Mokom hanichu li hahedyo. There was a place in his humility, in his tremendous humility, that there was a place that was left to this commoner, Rav Simcha Zissel is saying, to put my explanation in. Harishonim Anshe Shem. My teachers are Anshe Shem. They are people who are definitely connected with Hashem. Shalosh amati bahem mehem. I never heard this from them. Zachor na bani bazeh b'mamar koach k'niyas chachma. My son, remember. And he wrote in, I think in the other sefer, in the sefer Chachma and Mussar, he has a piece called Koach K'niyas Chachma, the power of the acquisition of Chachma, which I didn't look at now. Halo tavinzos. You'll understand the depth of going down into the omek, the depth of halacha, to understand how to do noiseh ba'olim chavero. Ub'shabbos hazeh ergashti ayin ba'ayin ki koach dakus ha'iyun moisif koach b'noiseh ba'ol. He says, this last Shabbos, I felt ayin ba'ayin. I think it means ayin ba'ayin means face to face with this fact. Ki koyach dakus ha'iyun, the power of being ma'ayin, iyun, ma'ayin, going into depth in the mitzvah of noseh ba'olim chavero, moisif koach b'nosif. Then that will add the ability to carry the load with your friend, which will lead to kinyan haTorah. But you need dakus ha'iyun. V'noisif ba'olim chaveiro moisif koach gam ken bedakos ha'iyun. And it seems to be a symbiotic relationship. Dakos ha'iyun will help me be moisif, it will help me be moisif koach noisif ba'olim chaveiro, and noisif ba'olim chaveiro will help to do dakos ha'iyun. And I think that's he doesn't say it, but that's when you learn with your friends. When you do noisif ba'olim chaveiro, when I learn with you, and we help each other out in the proper way, that'll help us to go more and more and deeper into the subject of noisif ba'olim chaveiro. But you do it with your friend, and that will do Kinyan HaTorah. V'yofe hirgashta b'michtav, in your letter that you wrote, ki halacha mimamar schar mitzvah benuya al kochas hanefesh. You said well, my son, in your letter, when you wrote about this mamar that I wrote called schar mitzvah, that it's benuya al kochas hanefesh. Kochas hanefesh are things that we have in us. They're things that every person has. But you have to get them under control. You have to harness these things. You have to do them in the proper way. Not just have kochos hanefesh. V'chein har'enu kamepamim. We've showed this a couple of times, and he brings a Gemara which I don't really understand the relevance to. In Shabbos Daf Yud, Kevin Dezmano Kol Halayla, Osi Lamifsha. Since the time to do the mitzvah is all night, then you'll maybe make a mistake and you'll go over the time. Talking about if you have fruits and juice came out of the fruit on its own, there's a different din if it was fruits that were there for squeezing or not squeezing. These apparently are examples that teach us about kochos hanefesh. Ki ha'alachos benuyos al kochos hanefesh. All of the halachas in the previous section are built on kochos hanefesh, the internal spiritual makeup of a person. Kochos hanefesh. V'hine koyach hanoise ba'ol im chaveiro, the power of carrying the load with your friend, or the yoke with your friend. A person cannot have those powers of doing the mitzvah, of carrying with his friend, without knowing your own kochos hanefesh. I can't do it. Otherwise it'll just mean schlepping the thing with you, helping you out. If I don't go into it, I heard recently a story from Rav Tzvi Miller. We all know that we used to grow up in the yeshiva, and the Rosh Yeshiva used to talk about, there's an argument between, let's say, the Hasidim, the non-Hasidim, what's greater, Torah and Tefillah, or Tefillah. So there was, Rav Miller has a shul in Ramat Beit Shemesh Gimel, and it's a Mussar shul. So there's a guy who lives across the street from them, goes to the Breslov shul, says, you Mussar guys, you know you're Mussar. But no, yeah. So anyway, Rav Tzvi saw the Rosh Yeshiva Zatzal, maybe the last time he ever spoke to him, and he asked him, because Tzvi, of course, is saying, Torah's great, Torah's the Ikar, not Tefillah. That's how we grew up. So he asked the Rosh Yeshiva, and he was astounded at his answer. He said, what is greater, Torah or Tefillah? So the Rosh Yeshiva Zatzal answered him and said, we really don't know. And that was the only part of the story I heard from someone else. But then Rav Tzvi told me the addition. The Rosh Yeshiva said, whatever it is, Torah or Tefillah, you have to have Mussar with it. Whatever it is. And I think that's the point here. A person can't do this mitzvah unless he goes into depth, and he can't do it b'shleimus, b'li yedias kochos hanefesh. Knowing kochos hanefesh, that's a euphemism for Mussar. That's Mussar to us. We want to know what are our kochos hanefesh in relationship to Hashem, relationship to other people, everything needs Yedias Kochos HaNefesh. V'lachein, gam ba'avur zos, yeus liyachzor lekinyan haTorah. Because of this reason itself, it's impossible to know the mitzvah without going down to the depths of your Kochos HaNefesh. It's proper to relate it to Kinyan HaTorah. Because the Torah is everything. We have to have our Kochos HaNefesh in the Torah, understanding the Torah. L'chein Yaakov. Now, Yaakov, therefore, when he heard about this dream, right? The brothers went, and he said, me and your mother, we're going to... V'aviv shomar es hadavar. Therefore, Yaakov, Kenemar shomar es hadavar al chalom Yosef. He guarded. So Rashi says, waited. And he has a raya from somewhere else that shomar means waited to see what would happen. Now, here he says, Lo me'avaso ahava-tivis, k'vi shesovrim anashim apshutim. It's not simply because he had this natural love for his son. And he sees his son fighting, and of course his beloved son. It's a baby boy. Okay, Binyamin wasn't even baby boy, but Yosef was the Iker. And he has these big guys that are fighting with his favorite son. I love my boy. Oh, I want things to work out well. Everything should come out nice. No, that's not what it means that the father waited. Aval bishvil shemotza boy midas noise ba'ol v'midah gedola. Why did he wait and see what's going to happen with Yosef? Because he saw in Yosef, as he's going to continue, the midah of noise ba'olim chavero. He saw that Yosef, he's right and he's correct, and they're not right. And he has to deal with whatever he has to deal with. And I'm going to wait to see how Yosef is going to be the melech in the end. Because he knows how to do noise ba'olim chaver. So that's the hakdama up till now. That's just a little introduction. Yeah?
Yeah, no.
That's the introduction that, number one, we see it's not simply, I feel I love my son, I want to. No. He went into his dakos. He did Eon, of course Yaakov Avinu did, and he understood that Yosef himself did it, even though he's only 17 years old. But Yosef himself did it, and he went down into the darkness, and he learned how to do Noise Ba'olim Chaveiro. Okay, you'll say, how did he do Noise Ba'olim Chaveiro? He went and cursed out his brothers, He not cursed them out, but he tattletaled on them. He said, Horror, said all these things. So he has to explain, what does that mean that he went into the amkus of the mitzvah of Noise Ba'olim Chaveiro that he saw in Yosef? In addition, we see that there's no chinam. There's nothing chinam. It's not simply, I want to help my friend. I like to help people. Some people like to help, some people don't like to help. So he likes to help people, so he's always helping people. That's not Noise Ba'olim Chaveiro. That's helping people. But not Noise Ba'olim Chaveiro, which needs Iyun Dakos Ha'iyun. Okay, now, let's look on the next. That was an introduction. Yosef had this mitzvah, this character of Noise Ba'olim Chaveiro, so therefore Yaakov Shomar Sadavar. So I want to see what's going to come out in the end. You'll see in the end, it's all going to come out properly because he's the guy. Okay, the next piece. Zeh Harbe Pamim Asher Dibarnu B'Mailas Noise Ba'olim Chaveiro. Many times we spoke about the great Maila, great quality of this mitzvah called, or this action called, carrying the yoke with your friend. And it's not for nothing that this is one of the midos that is needed in order to acquire Torah. Ki tchunasa benuya al kochas hanefesh im koach haseichel davka gam yachad. And here I think is a formula that he has throughout his writings. There's kochas hanefesh and there's koach haseichel. And without the koach haseichel, then I just run wild. Or I'm just running, maybe I'm running after my own tigers. I like to help people. So that's just me. What does it have to do with the mitzvah of helping? I once asked someone, a rabbi, I was troubled by people who put tefillin on other people. So I asked the person, I asked this rabbi, what's going on there? Is that mitzvah? So he looked at me like, if a person puts on tefillin, he doesn't know he's doing a mitzvah putting on tefillin, so he has boxes on his hand and on his, but he doesn't understand it, that's not called a mitzvah of tefillin. If a person helps someone, but he doesn't understand he's doing something called noiseh v'oilim chaveiro, then he's just doing something nice. He's a good guy. He's better than a stingy guy or a guy who doesn't like to help. But that's not necessarily the mitzvah of noiseh v'oilim chaveiro. It needs koyach hanefesh im koyach haseichel dafka gam yachad. Dafka cannot have one without the other. You can't be doing the mitzvah of, or the pa'ula, the activity of noiseh v'oilim chaveiro, or any mitzvah that you're doing, unless you have kochas hanefesh and koach haseichel. In other people explain it that koach hanefesh is what drives the person. Koach haseichel keeps it under control, or is magdir, limits it, or defines it. Defines what his kochas hanefesh are. And everybody has different koach hanefesh. V'lo yoel lazeh mashiach ha'adam rachman bateva. The fact that he has Rahmanis naturally, it's not moil. That will not help him accomplish noiseh v'olim chaveiro. He'll be a Rahman, he likes to help. That's not noiseh v'olim chaveiro. Aval tzarich lezeh hishtamshus haseichel. We need to have the use of the brain. The brain has to be there. Lihisboinen me'atzmo ulahatikam al zulaso, to look into himself and to move them on to someone else. Noiseh v'olim chaveiro is a mitzvah that you do with the other guy. So simply because I'm a Rahman, I want to help you. Of course I do. But if I don't, I need koach haseichel in order to look into my own noiseh v'olim chaveiro, what am I doing? And to ma'atik, copy it onto the other person or attach it to the other person. Ukvar zacharnu mizeh b'mamar haklali l'chvod Chag HaPesach. I mentioned it another time when I talked about Chag HaPesach. Es he'ani imoch. There's a pasuk in the Torah that talks about if you have poor people among you, you're supposed to support them, you're supposed to lend them money, don't be a tightwad, you should give them, lo tikpotz yadcha, even if it's the end of Shemitah, you should give it to them, Shemitah's all of those things. And it says, He'es he'ani imach, the pauper with you. So he has in parentheses here, which I think is maybe the person who compiled this. Kavanasa b'mashevi b'shem sham b'divrei Rashi. His kavana here is what he brought over there on this shiur on Chag HaPesach, where he quoted Rashi, ala kosov hazeh b'zeh lashon. On this pasuk he quoted Rashi, Esa ani imach, with the pauper with you, have mistakel be'atzmecha ki'ilu ata ani. Look in yourself as if you're a poor person. Then you'll go into your kochas hanefesh and you'll understand why you're doing it and what you're doing. V'ha'ikar leired el hapratim litchunasam. You have to go into the depths of the activity that you're doing, or in the meter that you're exhibiting. V'hu ke'inyan agra deshmaitza svar. We know that the Gemara in Brachos, it has a lot of agras. The reward of this is that, the reward of this is that. The reward of fasting is tzedakah, not tshuva and all that. Tzedakah, at least you give tzedakah. The reward of learning is understanding, svara. That's the reward. That's what we get out of learning. When a person will go into himself, introspect and understand what's really going on himself and talk about it with his friends, then he'll get svara, he'll get understanding of what he's really doing.
That means even if the person never had that pain, let's say someone passed away or some time, the guy comes, now you want to speak to him, so you have to think if this thing happened to me, but it never happened. So
Never happened?
Get the feeling and understanding.
But I need to pilpul chaverim with people to try to get that in me. In last week's piece, he writes someone who has a great taiva for something, and his whole existence is toward that thing, he will get that thing. If he doesn't have a great taiva for it, and he doesn't have his whole existence for that, he won't get it. And he brings an example. Therefore Hashem said, say Kriyat Shema in the morning. Why? You could think of other things. O Malchus Shamayim, say it in the morning. We'll force, really, I don't have my taiva and my whole purpose for Hashem. I want to get there. Hashem says, I will make you do something that's going to force you to do that. Meaning we have to do things that are going to force me. I don't relate to this guy who lost the person who had all of these things that happened to him. But I need to do things. I see from last week, I need to do things that are going to force me to have that proper relationship with the person. And I think he said that comes from Pilpul Chaverim. From learning Nosei Ba'olim Chaverim will get you to look deep, and looking deep will help you to get to Nosei Ba'olim Chaverim. But you need to get to that place where you have that in you, where my whole goal is for that guy, in whichever way possible. I think it's true what you say. I don't know if I agree with you or disagree with you, but if what I said agrees with you, but I definitely agree with you. You have to have that.
So what do you see that he says you have to have pilpul chaverim? Maybe you have to have pilpul atzmi with yourself.
True, but he did say before, he said,
the dakus ayinu,
Dakus ha'iyun mosif koch b'nosei ba'ol v'nosei ba'ol im chaveru mosif koch gam ken b'dakus ha'iyun. As I said, it's a symbiotic relationship. It goes back and forth. Okay, which the chicken, which the egg, I don't know. We have to force ourselves to do this dakus ha'iyun. That will help us understand how to do nosei ba'olim chaveru. I understand nosei ba'olim chaveru means in learning. Not helping a guy carry his suitcases. That's how I look at it.
If someone has tzad, and I want to condole him or help him, so I have to think, what does the person really want? So I have to make people in my
also true. Definitely true. So it could be, but then I don't understand there what the Nosei Ba'olim Chaveru is going to help with the dakus ha'iyun. I don't know how that's going to help me with dakus ha'iyun. My whole thing is to get the dakus ha'iyun. I'm not sure. It's an interesting question. I don't know. Anyway. Okay, that's all for today. Maybe tomorrow Rav Shlomo will come back. Maybe he won't. Okay. Good. Is it on? I don't know.
When we say Dakas Ha'iyah, how do you read it? Just the
Introspection. No. Minute
in ourselves, in order to facilitate other people.
in order to know how to